they stood alone, with ideas that changed everything. Brilliant minds against the world then.
Welcome to your dose of wowness, room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel, January 8th, 1943. A maid knocks, receives no answer, and opens the door. The man inside has been dead for some time. He is 86 years old. He has been living in this room on credit for years. The hotel management allowed it out of a complicated mixture of sentiment and awe because they knew who he had been. Within hours of the maid's discovery, agents from the FBI arrived to seize his papers. The electricity that powers their flashlights, the circuits in the building around him, the grids serving the entire city of New York, all of it runs on a system this man designed. His estate, when it is settled, is valued at less than $1,000. His name is Nikola Tesla.
The light that you are watching this by runs on his current. He died with almost nothing. Let us talk about why. Seriously, think about that for just a second. Look right at the screen in front of you. The literal fact that you are able to watch this explainer right now, it's entirely because of the physics harnessed by the man found dead in that tiny hotel room. We're talking about a guy who practically invented the 20th century, yet ended up with nothing.
Less than $1,000. Let that sink in. That was the brutal, unyielding arithmetic of his final estate. Imagine contrasting that tiny number against the sprawling, massive electrical infrastructure of New York City in 1943. All that power, all those lights, $1,000. It's absolutely wild. Day 106. We have been in Vienna, Buckinghamshire, London, Baltimore, Louisiana. Today we are in a hotel room in Manhattan, and we are going to trace backwards from it to Niagara Falls and Chicago and a laboratory in New Jersey where someone was electrocuting dogs for money. Subscribe. This is the most deliberately constructed injustice the Ark has produced so far. To really get this, you need to understand the stark physical reality of what they were actually fighting over. You see, the War of Currents, it wasn't just some polite difference of opinion over coffee. It was cold, hard math. Thomas Edison's direct current, or DC, lost energy catastrophically as it traveled down the wire. But alternating current, or AC, it didn't. AC could be stepped up to super high voltages, pushed across massive regional distances, and then safely stepped back down for your home using a simple transformer. DC literally had no equivalent. From a pure physics standpoint, it was completely incapable of scaling up. Edison's system had a 1-mile radius. 1 mile? That is not a rounding error, that is a physical law that no engineering refinement could change. To power a city with DC, you needed a generating station every mile. Edison's engineers knew this, Edison knew this. And then a 27-year-old Serbian immigrant walked into his office with a solution, and Edison offered him $50,000 to develop it. And when the work was done, told him the offer had been a joke. Can you even imagine? $50,000 back in the 1880s was a transformative, life-altering fortune. It was a massive amount of money, and Tesla actually delivered the work. He systematically went in and fixed the deep limitations of Edison's own dynamos. But Edison, a man sitting on an absolute mountain of capital, he just rescinded the money. He literally claimed the immigrant simply didn't understand American humor. Yeah, some joke, right? He spent the next period of his life digging ditches in Manhattan for $2 a day. The man who had designed the electrical system that would power the 20th century was digging ditches. The foreman who hired him did not know who he was. Tesla later described it as acute suffering. He said it with the precision of a man who had decided never to give anyone the satisfaction of more emotion than that. $2 a day. Just sit with that disparity for a moment. Picture it. You literally hold the patents to the infrastructure of the future. You've solved the greatest engineering puzzle of the age. And yet, there you are, gripping a heavy shovel in the dirt and mud of Manhattan just so you can afford to eat. It's heartbreaking. Now, Edison's response to Tesla's vastly superior AC system, once George Westinghouse bought the patents, wasn't to roll up his sleeves and build better technology. Because, well, you can't out-engineer physics, right? Instead, Edison's response was a deliberate, highly funded campaign of competitive sabotage. He actually paid his associates to publicly electrocute dogs, calves, and even horses using AC power. He wanted you, the everyday public, to look at alternating current and see nothing but death. He weaponized fear, plain and simple, all because he had millions of dollars tied up in his obsolete DC infrastructure. If you are watching this and thinking, I knew Edison was ruthless, but I did not know it was this deliberate, comment Westinghouse. That is the word Edison wanted people to use for electrocution. He wanted Tesla's partner's name to mean death in the public mind. Stay with us, because the Chicago World's Fair is coming, and it is one of the most satisfying moments in the arc so far.
So the fever finally broke at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. We're talking about the largest public gathering in American history up to that point. Westinghouse and Tesla brilliantly underbid Edison to light the entire event. And on May 1st, Tesla threw the switch on 100,000 incandescent bulbs, all of them powered by AC. It was pure kinetic awe. A total game changer. 27 million people saw firsthand that alternating current didn't kill them, it gave them the future. The technical argument? It was settled. Permanently.
The war of currents was over. AC had won. The entire subsequent history of electrical infrastructure, every grid, every power station, every transformer on every telephone pole in every country that generates electricity was going to be built on Tesla's patents. He should have been untouchable, and then he tore up the contract that would have paid him for all of it, because he believed in the work more than he believed in the money. That decision has one of the longest consequences of any single signature in the history of technology.
Just look at this devastating trade-off. Westinghouse Electric hit a severe existential financial crisis. They literally could not survive the mounting royalty payments they owed Tesla for every single unit of AC power generated. So Westinghouse went to him and asked for relief. And Tesla? Acting out of this profound, almost unbelievable loyalty to the one man who actually believed in him, tore up the contract. He surrendered a fortune that would have easily reached into the hundreds of millions. He saved the company, for sure. But in doing so, he basically guaranteed his own eventual ruin. He wanted to build a tower that would transmit electrical power wirelessly to any point on Earth, for free, without metering, without infrastructure, without anyone paying for it. JP Morgan funded it, until he understood that last part. Free meant no revenue. No revenue meant no Morgan. The tower stood unfinished for years and was eventually sold for scrap to pay what Tesla owed. It was demolished in 1917. The concept it embodied, global wireless transmission of energy, is still being researched today. It's really hard to watch how rapidly his grand ambition is just physically dismantled. His ultimate vision for a global infrastructure was literally dynamited by creditors so they could sell the scrap metal to cover his debts. It's a tragic reality. A man who flat out refused to treat electricity as just another commodity was ultimately crushed by a financial system that only valued commodities.
And the theft wasn't just financial, it was historical too. Think about this. Tesla actually demonstrated wireless signal transmission way before Guglielmo Marconi. But who got the patents? Marconi. Who got the 1909 Nobel Prize and all the public glory? Marconi. Tesla spent years fighting a legal system that seemingly rewarded the better businessman rather than the true first inventor. It's a cold, incredibly specific kind of grief.
Which brings us right back to the final 2 decades of his life. It's a story of progressive, agonizing contraction. Here's a guy living in the New Yorker hotel entirely on credit. His primary companions? The pigeons he fed outside his window. Imagine being the man whose mind literally built the glowing skyline he was staring at every night, yet finding yourself completely isolated. And the second he died, the FBI swept right in to seize his papers. Nikola Tesla died alone in a hotel room on credit at 86 in January of 1943. 5 months later, the Supreme Court ruled that several of Marconi's radio patents were invalid in light of Tesla's prior work, restoring his priority for an invention the world had already credited to someone else, at a moment when the only man who would have cared about the ruling was no longer alive to hear it. The alternating current system he designed powers every electrical grid on the planet. His estate was worth less than $1,000. Edison died in 1931 and was mourned nationally. Tesla died in 1943 and was mourned by pigeons. The unit of magnetic flux density was named after him. The company that makes the most celebrated electric vehicles in the world bears his name, which is either a tribute or a further irony depending on how you feel about the relationship between genius and the people who profit from it. Tomorrow, on day 107, we stay in that question. Someone else's genius, someone else's profit, a patent that changed every device you own, and an unnamed woman who received nothing for it while the world was built on what she invented. When society decides to bury its true architects, who ultimately pays the price? We will see you then.